Well, viewers, space science technology has become the order of the day as many countries around the globe want to know more about the environment and how best to tackle environmental issues for the betterment of humanity. On the 7th of July this year, the All Nations University in Koforidua ventured into space science technology by way of launching Ghana's first satellite into orbit, some 420 kilometers above sea level. Today, I'm very privileged to have with me Mr. Ernest Teye Matey, who happens to be a member of the Space Science Technology of All Nations University. Mr. Matey, most welcome.
Thank you very much for coming over to know more about our project.
Great. Space Science Technology, All Nations University. I must say that you guys have done tremendously well.
Yes, we don't take the achievement upon ourselves, but then we congratulate Ghana as a whole that Ghana has achieved this for ourselves.
Now, before we go straight into our discussion for the day, I would like you to briefly tell viewers about yourself. I mean, who you really are, probably the school you attended, the senior high school you attended.
Thank you very much. So, as you said, or as I am Ernest Teye Matey. I'm born into a family of 5. I have 3 other brothers, myself, and another person, but not available now. And I started school from Somenya, Okliboni International School.
Wow.
And then my dad was transferred to Koforidua. He was a banker, so I started Koforidua Pentecost preparatory. So after Pentecost, then I continued in Pope John Senior High School. So after Pope John, then All Nations University. So that has been my educational story, and the place that I liked most was Pentecost Senior High School more than Pope John Senior High School. So basically, when people ask me that where is your old school, I say Pentecost Senior High School.
Well, before we go straight to talk about the project, kindly take some few minutes, a few seconds to educate viewers on what space science technology is all about.
Thank you very much. I believe that we are all users of space and satellites, but then most of us don't know. We make calls, we call somebody abroad, we dial some numbers, and then the person receives abroad and then talks back, but then we don't know what's happening interim. Your calls are routed through a satellite. Also, you watch television, you buy multi-TV, DSTV, and then you call somebody to come and install your antenna, and the person says, I'm trying to point your antenna to a particular place. What the person is doing is he's trying to point your antenna to a satellite in space, which means that what you are seeing on your screen is coming from a satellite in space. So we are all users, and then also we have another application where after news you are told that there will be tomorrow will be sunny, there will be rains tomorrow or something. How did the person know that they use satellite data to predict the weather or the climate? So I believe that we are all satellite users. So these are what we do with satellite. But the reason why it is satellite, what is a satellite? A satellite is a body that goes around another body. So we have natural satellite, which is the Earth going around the sun. So the Earth is considered a natural satellite. And also we build something with our hands, and then it's called an artificial satellite. Just to give a brief understanding about satellite so that the normal man can understand. When I'm standing on the ground, there is to an extent to which my eye can see. When I climb a story building, there is an extent to which I can see. When I go higher, I can see broader. That's the idea. So it means that if I go on a mountain, I can see the whole city of Koforidua or the whole city of Accra. If I go higher, then perhaps I can see the whole Ghana. So that's why we developed a satellite, something like a phone, a special phone. We put special cameras on it, and then we take it very high to a point where we can see the whole Ghana or we can see the world. So that's satellite.
Wow. Now, growing up, was this something you really wanted to do? I mean, pick up a career in space science technology? And what really motivated you to venture into space science technology as a young Ghanaian?
Thank you very much. Growing up, space science technology wasn't something that I was into. But then my dad few times always said about aeronautics engineering. But then it wasn't something that moved me. Basically, there was one thing that moved me was to work at Vodafone. Yes, that was the reason why I wanted to work at Vodafone was because of the pickup, that red pickup with the Vodafone written on it that I see the engineers driving.
Wow.
I fancied it, and that was what I wanted to be. So I wanted to start, I wanted to do telecommunication engineering, but my dad was for aeronautics engineering. But then after WASI, my results wasn't up to offering aeronautics engineering, though I could do some other courses. So he said, okay, but I still wanted to do something communication. So I came to All Nations University and we began. Even at All Nations University, space science wasn't something that I was into. But then at the introduction of the project, that was in 2013, we had someone come to introduce space science for us. Mm-hmm. And then what he said was, it's more practical. So it wasn't that I was moved by space science, but because it was practical, you have to do something with your hands, so I joined. But then, with time, we had people backing up from the team. But then I will owe my stay in the team to, first of all, God, and also to the manager, the project manager of Ghana Sat 1, Mr. Benjamin Bonsu. Mr. Benjamin Bonsu became like a senior brother to me whilst in school, and he kept advising me that this project is taking us somewhere and stuff. So that kept me in the team. But after all, I noticed that it was the will of God, and then we all kept to it. So that's how I ended up into space science.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. Now, going forward, Ghana's first satellite that was launched into orbit recently, can you see yourself and the team at the All Nations University, has been named Ghana Sat 1. Why Ghana Sat 1?
Thank you very much. You spoke about the team. I would also like to recognize the team. Mr. Benjamin Bonsu, the project manager, myself, and Mr. Joseph Kwanzaa, also a technical member of the team. And we also have those who work at the ground segments, Mr. Aaron Yankee, and a lady amongst us, Ms. Sharon Sapo. The reason why we named the satellite Ghana Sat 1, we could have named it All Nations Sat 1. And with naming it All Nations Sat 1, there could be some other opportunities that we could have gotten, because when a satellite is represented solely by the university, there are some opportunities that we get outside, some conferences or stuff. But then we thought that even as a private university, we don't want to do this alone. We are looking at the country. The country has not ventured much into space, and then we thought that naming it as a country satellite could rather bring opportunities to the country rather than the university as a unit. So that's why we named it Ghana Sat 1. And naming it Ghana Sat 1 also had opened other doors internally. That's and right. Then it has been a success for the whole Ghana, or for Ghanaians. So this is not only a success for all nations. That's what we looked at.
That's right. I mean, talking about the success of the country as a whole, I mean, I have received calls and mails from colleague journalists from other parts of the world commending Ghana for launching its first satellite into orbit, and so it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. But beyond that, Ghana Sat 1, what would you say are some of the benefits to the socio-economic development of Ghana?
Thank you very much. I've had many people ask me that, so what's this thing going to do for the economy?
That's right.
And I always say that it's not all that drives the nation, which is the economy. We have education, we have technology. Well, Ghana Sat 1 had a requirement, and the requirement was that it should be developed by students trained in Ghana and specifically All Nations University for the first time. That's what we wanted to do. And also that it should meet Ghana's 60th anniversary, which we achieved, so that at least after 60 years we have something to show that this is what we've developed to the white man who thought maybe we couldn't have achieved it, but we have. And as I was saying, the satellite has its mission to perform in space. The first mission is, we call it the camera mission. The satellite has some cameras on board, and these cameras are going to take images of the coastal plains of Ghana. Now, somebody who uses geographic images to interpret something, to define the properties of Ghana, will know what this means. Sure. So when we get these images, we can give it to the governmental arms that uses these images. So basically, we are trying to take images of the coastal plains of Ghana. We know that for precise imaging, sometimes they buy this data outside the country or from other satellite owners, but then we are trying to domesticate production and consumption. So that's what we want to do. So first, we are going to take some images, and secondly, and most important to me, is the educational aspect. We have a specific mission on the satellite called the Digital Singer mission. With this mission, you are going to teach students how to encode information on the satellite and how to receive information from a satellite. So for this mission, what the satellite is going to do is that students will write some, we will teach them how to encode, how to program songs, and then they will send that song to the satellite at that height, and then the satellite will broadcast it back, and will teach them how to receive information from a satellite. So for now, this mission is going to sing some songs which includes the Ghana national anthem. Wow. And some songs of heritage of Ghana, like the Yarana Yen Arai Assassini and those songs. So we put that song because we wanted the satellite to sing that song on Ghana's Independence Day. Wow. But the launch missed the day. So these are the two things. So for the educational aspect, we try to go to high schools, we try to go to junior high schools, and then students who come to All Nations, we try to get their attention, try to program something, try to solder something, make a circuit, how to receive information from a satellite. So these are the two main things that it has achieved. But also most importantly is the national pride that we've gained. Many Ghanaians do not really see the pride of it, but the white man sees what we have done as so great, and we've had calls coming in to congratulate. How did you guys do it? How were you able to do it? So I believe that this is a great achievement for the nation.
Sincerely, how you did it is mind-boggling, especially, I mean, as a young scientist, from nowhere, it's great. But prior to the successful launch of GhanaSat-1, few years back, All Nations University also launched a miniature satellite somewhere. Can you quickly take us through that and how it contributed to the successful launch of GhanaSat-1?
Yes, thank you very much. In satellite technology or exploration, you don't just begin to do something. There's a need for collaboration.
Sure.
And before those countries or agencies who have gone way ahead in satellite technology collaborate with you to help you, to give you the testing facilities, because you don't have in Ghana and we didn't have at the time, you have to demonstrate some capacity that I can do some electronics, I can do some communication. You don't just go empty-handed. So satellite exploration has its stages, and we followed that, which is done by the Japanese. First, you have to demonstrate your capacity by building that miniature satellite. So that satellite we built, that small one, it was fit into a can, and then it was taken up high the skies, about some 300 meters, and then it was taken up by a balloon. So what we wanted to do is that this satellite almost simulates what's happening in a bigger satellite. So we want to show that we can do something like that. We can take it high, we can communicate with it, we can receive something from it. So that's what we did in 2013. And it was amazing that this was the first time in Ghana, Sub-Saharan African, that a university has done this. So we had calls, BBC came in, calls from US, people wanting to know how we were able to achieve this. But I will direct all to the grace of God. And after that, in 2014, we had to develop an amateur ground station.
Okay.
That amateur ground station is the station that communicates with the satellite. So you have a satellite in space, and then you have a station on ground that can send information and then receive information.
Okay.
So the same team developed the amateur ground station, and is sited in All Nations University main campus.
Okay.
So that was also the first in sub-Saharan Africa. So you see that everything that we do space is first in sub-Saharan Africa, because we have not, the continent as a whole has not dealt much into space science.
Yeah.
So those are the two projects. The CanSat, that is a satellite in a can, like a can Coke or can something, a satellite in a can, and then we did the amateur ground station.
Wow. All Nations University. I mean, it's great. I soon after you launched the Ghana Sat-1 into orbit, calls from all over the place, like I said earlier, and you also just alluded to that fact. One person that really praised you guys about your success was the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I read his speech online, and I was really taken aback by the fact that he really spent time to communicate, and I later heard that the team visited him at the Flagstaff House, and it was really, really marvelous. Thank you so much. Now, this is not the only project you have worked on, apart from Ghana Sat-1 and the CanSat some few years back. Can you please walk us through some other projects you have done in the past or hope to do in the future?
Yes, for the projects pertaining to space science, it's only the Ghana Sat-1 is the third project. Okay. So we had the CanSat amateur ground station and then the Ghana Sat-1. But then the vision that we have is bigger than Ghana Sat-1. For now, that's what Ghana Sat-1 will do. And I would say the limitation that Ghana Sat, it's not a limitation, but the strength of it was because in space exploration, there is an extent to which you can do as a private entity. Okay. And then when you collaborate with the government or with a bigger company or institution, that's what you can do. So we began Ghana Sat-1 as a private university, founded by a private university, and it ended as developed by a private university for the country. So even the cameras that we employed on board, the mission, the size, the resources available was quite limited. But then we are looking at Ghana Sat-2, and Ghana Sat-2 we are looking at solving a particular problem in Ghana. Okay. And for now, we've evaluated and we see that illegal mining in Galamsey is become a persisting problem in Ghana. And then from what we've studied, we've seen that other countries who are way ahead in satellite technology, they use satellite to try to monitor water pollution, try to target some people who are polluting the water, mining illegal, doing some illegal mining somewhere. So Ghana Sat-2 is going to do that. Okay. So that's what we've started. We are now learning into it, because you have to learn into it to know.
So you mean we should expect more from all nations?
Yes, we should expect more. But Ghana Sat-2 can be achieved if we have the collaboration with the government, so that we don't start as a private entity. But when the government comes in, we know that we can do better. We have the capacity to do, but then we just need the government's extra support from the government.
Let me satisfy my curiosity a bit here. Have you received any data yet from the satellite? And if you did, what kind of data have you received so far?
Thank you very much. The day that we released the satellite, it was launched in 3rd June 2017. It was released to start its operation on the 7th of July, and it was released at 8:50 a.m. in the morning. By 12:26 p.m. it was passing over Ghana. It goes around the world. It's only when it's passing over Ghana that we can communicate with it from our ground station in Ghana, All Nations University. So by 12:26 p.m. we received the first signal from our satellite. Normally for we call it mission planning. Okay. When you plan your mission, you don't start your main mission in the first or in the second week. The signal that we received what we call the health data of the satellite. So the satellite is going to tell us that, oh, I'm well. I'm doing well. This is the battery voltage. This is my temperature. This is this. Everything in the house is okay. This transmitter has this temperature. This circuit board has this temperature, and everything is okay. Because you want to know all these things before you start your mission. You put your camera on. You want to know the battery level before you put your camera on. Because when your battery is low and you put your camera on, the whole thing might collapse. So that's mission planning. So we received our first signal that very day, and we hoping to start our missions soon. We hoping to get all the health data that we need from the satellite, and then the mission will be initiated.
Wow. Well, so far, Mr. Matey, I might say it's been very positive and very good. I mean, now that you are done with launching Ghana's first satellite into orbit, what is next, or what are you doing currently?
Okay, thank you. So for now, I am a student in Kyushu Institute of Technology in Japan. I must say that this project was realized because we had collaboration with this university in Japan, and they have the testing equipment and the facilities, and they helped us. So myself and the team, we are there. Myself and Joseph Kwanzaa, we are about completing our master's program in integrated systems engineering. And then we have our project manager, Mr. Benjamin Bonsu. He completed his master's and has started his PhD. Wow. So currently, that's what we're doing now.
Wow, that's good. The team is really rich. And let me ask, before I came here to have the interview with you, I read a bit about space science technology in general. China launched its first satellite into orbit in 1957, and 1958 they launched another one. So I decided to research about challenges space scientists face when it comes to building the satellite itself, the various integrated components, and then finally launching it into orbit. Now, you are a young scientist from Ghana, Africa. What would you say were some of the challenges you had to deal with?
Thank you. The reason why space science takes a lot of time is because, example, when you build a car, when you manufacture a car, and then the car gets broken on the road, you park it somewhere, and then you access it and you try to fix it. But when you launch a satellite to space, the satellite could be far expensive than a car. Yes, the satellite is unaccessible and unmaintainable. Wow. So you make sure that what you are sending there is 100%
authentic.
So when you develop, you don't have to develop under pressure. You have to take time, and then you also employ external investigators to see that if I said I'll connect A to B, check that I connected A to B. So it takes some time. So when we developed our satellite, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, came around, and then our satellite has to go through a series of safety check to see that what you have developed will not harm the rocket, can work in space. So we did that check. That day was the most exciting day.
Wow. Because
your satellite can be rejected. They will do some measurement, and I quite remember that the JAXA personnel came. And then he was trying to do some measurements. The measurements has to be very specific. We are talking about 0.01 millimeter. That's specific. And then he measured something, and he was like, "This is out of specification." And I said, "No, it is." And there was quite some arguments. Just 0.01 and he said, "No, this is." And the reason why I was trying to argue back, it wasn't the right thing though, but then the reason why I was trying to do that is because when he taxed this satellite as failed the first test, you have to go through a series of processes and documentation before it to be accepted back. You see, but then there he took the measuring machine, he measured it, and then said it's okay. So that was one of the nicest moments that we had for GhanaSat-1 though. So that's what it goes through for it to be accepted, qualified for launching, because for your satellite to be put in a rocket, the rocket is far expensive, and that for that satellite to be accepted to be launched it wasn't only our satellite that was launched. You have many satellites, and sometimes one satellite, the failure of one satellite can blow up the whole rocket, and then we have everything blowing up. So they give you specification. You have to go through vibration test, thermal test, and all these things before it is accepted. So these are the things that makes the process of developing a satellite takes longer, because it has to be 100%. Satellite is unmaintainable because it is unaccessible.
Wow, series of tests and what have you, the limit tests and what have you. Now, you have said that already, but let me put this into context. Having been part of the team of young scientists or aerospace engineers, so to speak, to launch the first ever satellite on behalf of Ghana into orbit, how is the feeling like?
Well, the day the rocket was lifting from the launch pad up to high, I felt more Ghanaian, and I felt that this is a fulfillment of what Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said, that the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. Sure. I saw it happening live, because nobody thought that Ghana would even venture into space, but All Nations University did that for the country. So that's my feeling. For yet I don't feel very much as a great achiever, because I've started thinking about Ghana Sat 2.
That's right.
It also comes with its sleepless nights. Ghana Sat 3. I want to solve something in Ghana. We want to solve a particular problem in Ghana. Illegal mining has become a burden upon the country.
Very devastating.
Galamsey and stuff. So we want to solve it. And I think that for now there is some excitement, but then until we solve it, until we see that it is solved, something is solved, we do not call it a great achievement. So All Nations University, we are working towards it to solve that water pollution problem, illegal mining and Galamsey problem in Ghana. So after that, I think I can answer this question.
Now, before we wrap up, how would you describe, or what would you say about the future of space science technology, Ghana and across Africa?
Yes, we have a very bright future. The first step is most important and yet most difficult. The first step was most important and most difficult for all the countries, those who are way ahead, the US, Japan and China. But then we have done it. We've crossed that barrier. So I think I can see many things coming afterwards. I can see collaborations, inter-university collaborations. I can see that thing happening. And we are always open for any university who wants to collaborate with us. We can help them develop their own cancer. They also have to demonstrate capacity, their ground station. We are always there for collaboration, if only they will pick it up. So the future is very bright. And for me, I see that up to Ghana Sat 4, all our calls should not route through satellite that MTN is buying data from, or Vodafone. All those calls should be routed through Ghana's own satellites.
And I see it happening.
We should realize that.
I see it happening.
We should realize that.
Now, very quickly, my last question for you is this: what message do you have for young adults or young Ghanaians out there who also have the dream of becoming scientists like you in the future?
Well, there are basically two things that I have in my life, or my life is oriented to. The first is I would say the most priority, or what I prioritize most is I do preach the gospel of Christ. I do go out, even in vehicles. I do preach the word of God. That's my life. And then I had that life before I came into space science. So basically two things I do: the gospel of Christ and then satellite technology. And what I would tell every Ghanaian is that, or the younger ones, is that there's a difference between your career and your purpose. Mm-hmm. So my career is space science, but my purpose is to get another person saved, to come to the knowledge of Christ. Even in Japan, when we went there are no Christians there. We started a fellowship, we started inviting people, and that's how God is helping, and God is opening more doors for us. So my final word is that no matter what you want to do, whether you want to be a shoemaker, that's your career. But then when your purpose is attached to it, when you find a purpose attached to it, doors are open unto you. And those doors are opened by God and can never be closed. Yeah.
Wow, very, 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 very inciting. Mr. Ernest Teye Matey, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Well, viewers, this has been a beautiful and interesting discussion with the team of All Nations University Koforidua that recently launched Ghana's first satellite, some 420 kilometers above sea level, recently into orbit. Reporting for Gen8campus.com, my name is Francis Tete, All Nations University College, Koforidua.